to go to a higher level of success, the solution is not in your head today, because if it was already in your head, you'd already be there. You got to go find somebody that you relate to that's been where you want to go and do what they're doing. I see that I continue to get more enlightened as I get older, and I appreciate that process and going and finding people that are smarter than me.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and boy, do we have an exciting guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a friend of a dear friend. This man is a best-selling author. He's an expert in the work of the legendary Napoleon Hill, the author of the legendary book, Think and Grow Rich, the second best-selling personal development book of all time after the Bible. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary John Mitchell. Welcome to the show, John.
Nikki, I have never had that good of an introduction. Thank you. That's pretty good.
I appreciate it, man. So, John, the men and women who listen to this show, these are society's greatest heroes, except for our military, because they're the ones with the dreams, the visions to make those dreams and visions come alive. They create all the jobs, they create all the innovation, they move the human race forward. And they listen to this show because they want to learn how to be better at that. They don't come here for me because I'm here every week. They're here for you. But before they can open their hearts and minds to you, they got to get to know you. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great John Mitchell?
Well, basically, when I turned 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. Now, I started my career as a CPA, became an entrepreneur when I was 30, was in 7 different businesses in my 30s and 40s. But, Nikki, when I turned 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. And I had 2 goals in my life. The first one was to make enough money so I didn't have to work. And the second one was to find the woman of my dreams. And, on the money, I always did pretty well. I always, as an entrepreneur, I made, a couple $100,000 a year, but never close to $1 million. And I know this sounds materialistic, but at 50, I'm like, I have to start netting over $1 million a year if I'm going to have the exceptional life I always dreamed of. And then on the girl at 50, I'd never been married, although I did a lot of interviewing.
Love it.
Well, Nikki, I called it interviewing. My friends called it begging, which is probably closer to what it was. But, So I remember at 50, like, how am I going to change things? And, probably 3 months after I turned 50, a pearl of wisdom comes to me. Find the top book in the world on success and apply that book literally word for word to my life. And I'm like, pretty good idea. So I bounce out of bed, do a little research, and I discover what you alluded to at the start, that there's one book that's been read by 150 million people, and the next best-selling book on success has been read by 1/10 that amount, and that book is Think and Grow Rich. And so I'm like, this is perfect. I had no idea that there was one book above all others. So I immediately go and buy the book and read the book, and then I discover the problem. Book says there's a secret for success, but the author only gives us half of the secret. It's on the reader to figure out the other half. And so, Nikki, I'm bummed out, and I mope around for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then one day just sort of wake up and go, John, figure out the damn secret, just man up and figure it out. And so I immersed myself in the book for a couple of weeks and or a couple of months rather, and read the book probably 20 times. And I ultimately figure out the secret and a 12-minute a day technique to apply it. And I started applying it to a new business I was starting in the reverse mortgage field. And quickly my income starts doubling and doubling and doubling to the point where 4 years later, I was blessed to be making 25 times the 200 to 300 grand a year I was making the prior 20 years. And of course, I felt so blessed. But what was cool, Nikki, is I could see why it was all happening. I was just playing the game of life at a higher level. I could do things I could never do before. I had a level of control over my life I'd never had before. And I became fascinated that you could take two key scientific principles and apply them to your life and so materially impact your success. And so about 10 years ago, I sell my company. I meet the former chancellor and president here at the University of Texas, and I tell him my story, and he says, hey, you got to teach this at Texas, and why don't we teach it together? And that ended up leading to me meeting the athletic director who said, I want to learn this 12-minute a day technique. And that led to becoming the mental coach for the 18 head coaches. And now I teach my methodology to all 550 athletes here at the University of Texas. So that's the story.
That's a heck of a story. Okay, I'll bite. I tell you what, I'm 57 right now, and I love what I do, and I've made good money in my life. I had a pretty good year last year. We brought in just over $500,000, but I've had this number in my head, and that number's 10 million a year. And I really want to get there, and I'm doing whatever I got to do. At 55, I weighed 227 pounds. I was almost just over 50 pounds overweight. I dropped 58 pounds in 6 months with the help of a coach. And I'm in the business of helping entrepreneurs make more money. I've helped guys add anywhere from 100,000 to 11.5 million to their annual income. And I'm really good at getting people paid. But this is the year I want to get me paid at a higher level than I've ever been paid. I got to hit at least $1 million a year, and I'd love to get to 10 million a year. So I'm game. Make me your guinea pig on this podcast. Walk me through your 12 minutes, and let's sell a bunch of copies of your book to my people.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, if you don't mind, let me ask your audience and you a pivotal question. So just think about this.
Yep.
How do you create success in your life? Just, and this is sort of maybe rhetorical for you, but for your audience, how do you create success in your life? Just think about that. And then, I see when I do this with someone in person, oftentimes they stumble around and they'll come up with something, but it becomes obvious oftentimes that they don't know how to create success. And then the more pertinent question is, how's that working for you? Well, oftentimes it's not working very well. And what I see is that most people are just winging life. They don't have an actual way of doing life. And the effect of that is they continually recreate the past, and they have nothing pulling them forward to their desired life. And, what I see is that we all have two problems we have to overcome as human beings. First of all, we're wired for survival, which causes 75% of our thoughts to be fear-based, and we're reactive rather than proactive on our important agenda. So that's the first problem we all have to deal with every day. The other problem is that we're oriented to the recent past. And so when we open our eyes each morning, we think about our problems. And those thoughts create negative feelings about our problems. And that creates more negative thoughts. And we get in this continual negative loop with nothing pulling us forward to our desired life, and that's the problem. And as I'm going to explain in a minute, the solution is to create the succinct articulation of your desired life and feed it to yourself every day. And I'll explain that in a minute. But once you do that, it's a whole new ball game, and you have a powerful force pulling you forward to the life you desire. Does that conceptually make sense?
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm somebody who's, by conventional definitions, got a fair bit of success.
Right.
$500,000 a year ain't nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
Being 55 years old and dropping 58 pounds and doing a bodybuilding show and placing third and having abs at 57, nothing to sneeze at either. I've got two amazing sons. One of them's just turned 19 on Saturday. He's working full time. He decided to work full time and not go to college, and I'm fully supportive of that. And he's on his way to make 60 grand as a 19-year-old in a year.
Pretty good.
I'm happy with how I'm raising him. I got another boy. He's just about to turn 17, and he's 17, but he's on his way doing all the right things. I got an ex-wife. I get along with her. I got a current lady. I get along with her. The two of them get along with each other. A lot of my life is going well, but it ain't at the level like you. I've been thinking like you did back when you were 50, going, I want to do at least $1 million a year. Yeah, I said that to myself at the beginning of this year. And if I ask myself what I really want to do, it's at least 10 million. 10 million a year would be absolutely fantastic. And there are a number of things that I'm doing. So the things that you're saying, it's not that I haven't heard them before, but I'm hearing them at a time in my life where I think I'm ready to fully absorb them and implement them. That's the difference.
Right. Well, and I dare say that you haven't heard from other people what I'm going to share because, and I think your audience is going to find, most of them are going to find what I'm going to share interesting. The ones that are driven are going to find it life-changing. Cool. And so with that as a preview, let me explain what the full secret is. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready, bum.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share the secret with you by sharing something very personal with you. So back when I was 50 and I was feeling the scarcity of time, the other thing that was going on in my life was that my mom was dying of pancreatic cancer. And so every day after work, I would go and see her and love on her and hold her hand. And I was going to the hospital. And, then Nikki, after I'd spent a couple of hours with her in the evening, I'd go in the cold, dark hospital parking lot and cry my eyes out. And cry my eyes out for 30 minutes to an hour every night. And again, this is going on for 8 weeks. Well, after a few weeks, I'm like, I've never experienced anything this gut-wrenching. And, I didn't want to cry in front of my mom because then she would know she was dying. But, no doubt she knew it anyway. But so this goes on. And I started to realize that what was going on was I obviously knew I was losing my mom, but I felt like I was letting my mom down with my life because my parents gave me everything. They sent me to Jesuit High School in Dallas. They sent me here to the University of Texas, paid for everything. And all I had to show for my life was an average life. And I hated an average life because I knew I was capable of so much more. And so what I began to realize later in perspective is that feeling of letting my mom down was like rocket fuel and causing me to go deeper than anybody on the planet to figure out the secret of Think and Grow Rich. And I remember the night that it all sort of came together. And this particular night, I'd gone and seen my mom, but it just felt different because it was snowing. And it doesn't snow very often in Dallas. That's where I was at the time. And so, I see my mom. I go in the parking lot of the hospital and cry my eyes out. And I start driving home, and Nikki, I see the snowflakes hitting my windshield, and I'm just getting this feeling that it's different that night. And so I get home and I start reading Think and Grow Rich. And the first thing I read is that your success in life comes down to your daily actions. The cumulative effect of your daily actions determine your success in each area of your life. I'm like, okay, pretty simple definition of success, but I buy that. And then I read something very interesting. It says that 95% of your daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. I'm like, that's interesting. And so by now I'm ready to go to bed, and I, wash my face and brush my teeth and get in bed, and I'm laying there, and but I can't stop thinking about that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. And as I'm thinking about that, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If your daily actions determine your success and 95% of them are unconscious, then you don't control the very thing that determines your success. And the only way to have a higher level of success is to gain control over those unconscious daily actions. And, this was like the epiphany of my life. And I remember sitting up in bed and seeing the snowflakes falling in the backyard. And then the full secret of Think and Grow Rich really comes to me. And that full secret is what you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And let me say that again. What you envision in detail with emotion on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. And what that means is you create immense clarity about your life, exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. Then you take that clarity, put it on a template that I created, and then you feed that to yourself every day, either reading or listening to it. It takes approximately 12 minutes a day. And after 21 days, you rewire your autopilot, and the right actions start happening automatically without thinking. And three things then happen. First of all, you have this immense sense of control over your life. Well, of course you would, because you're feeding the succinct articulation of your life to yourself each day. Of course you'd feel control. Then the second thing you experience is confidence. And that's a direct result of the control. And then the third thing is, like I said, after 21 days, you then have control of those unconscious daily thoughts and actions, and then the right actions happen automatically without thinking. And that's really the game changer.
All right. I like this, John. I like it a lot.
Good.
I'm going to help you. We'll talk offline, but I'll send you to a bunch of other podcasts, and I'll show you how to do this in a way that's going to get you go there. I like you. I like what you're doing. I think this is good. So let's use me as a guinea pig, and let's I'll show you a couple of things. So I wrote this book late last year. It's called Get Booked and Get Paid, How to Generate 6 Figures Plus a Year Through Podcast Guesting. I've gone as a guest on over 700 podcasts since May of 2022. I've become the world's expert on monetizing your podcast guest appearances. I want to sell 1 million copies of this book. I've made over 500,000 part-time during that time, 2 to 5 hours a week, and I've shown other people how to do it. I want to sell a bunch of copies of this book, and I want to sell a bunch of seats in my workshops, also called Get Booked and Get Paid. Secondly, I got another book, which got published about 2 years ago, just a little under 2 years ago. I wrote it with Wayne Allen Root, and it was endorsed by President Donald J. Trump. And I want to get this book to be back in the public consciousness. It's a book that's a list of companies. It's called the Great Patriot Boycott Book. It's a list of 123 patriotic American companies that are non-woke, that people that believe in a traditional freedom-loving America should buy from. So 10 million each of these 2 books sold. That's kind of what's on my mind. how do we create the 12-minute daily habit for Nikki that's going to make these come alive for me?
Okay. I like this. Here's how we're going to do it. This is what was a game changer on my income. So you got to define 6 things. Yeah, like, I don't know, a lot of people have a business plan that they check once a year or they update it once a year. That's useless. Might as well throw it in the trash. This is the alternative to it. So you define 6 aspects of your business: your succinct business plan, your strategy for success, the 2 or 3 things that move the needle, where you want to be 3 years from now, the 4 or 5 milestones to get there, and the linchpin issue to go to the next level. So you define those 6 things, and in my methodology.
Walk me through them again. Succinct business plan,
Okay.
strategy for success. What's the next one? Is 2 to 3
2 to 3 things that move the needle.
that move the needle. Okay, let me just write these down.
Right. Okay.
All right, number 4.
Number 4 is, where do you want the business to be 3 years from now?
3-year vision.
Right. Because
Okay.
3 years is not too far out and it's not too soon.
Number 5.
And then number 5 is, what are the 4 or 5 milestones to get to that 3-year vision based on where you are today?
Okay, and number 6.
Number 6 is the linchpin issue to go to the next level. There's always a, sort of what I call a linchpin issue to take you from where you are today to that next level. And through my methodology to make this easy for people, I created an AI algorithm where you answer approximately 50 questions, and I give you a sample answer for each one, and those 6 things. I give what each one of those was for my company when I was grossing 25 million and netting 5 million. So you have a pretty good view of what I'm looking for.
Sure.
But you basically answer 40 to 50 questions, press a button, and 10 seconds later, the algorithm customizes this template to your unique life. And you'll find this interesting. When I would coach entrepreneurs, I'd give them a money-back guarantee that if I couldn't double their income within a year, I'd give them their money back. And typically my clients were making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and I would also, besides making them have immense clarity in those 6 areas, I'd also teach them what turned out to be like 5 high performance skills. The first one was, I would teach them, you got to be highly organized with a simple system where you plan your day the night before and you time block your day. Then I'd teach them this concept that you have to set aside time to deep think 2 times a week. This is a habit the top entrepreneurs in the world do, but very few people actually step back and deep think a couple times a week. And I have a 3-step process for that.
How long should that go?
About 30 minutes a session. What you'll see, sometimes you'll think for an hour though, but as a general rule, it's about 30 minutes.
I can make that happen, man. That's not a problem. So you're saying one should plan their day the night before?
Absolutely. Look at it this way, Nikki. Being successful, you got to be highly efficient. And when you start your day, it's about doing. It's not about planning. You planned your day the night before. You time blocked your day. When you hit the road running every morning, it's about doing. So that's why you got to be highly organized. And I have a simple system that I teach people. And again, time blocking is critical. But the other thing, there's a couple more high performance skills is another one is you got to be a conduit of learning where you have the wisdom of experts coming into your head in key areas that you need that are strategic relative to what you want to accomplish. Because none of us are smart enough to be highly successful on our own.
No.
And most people are not growing. The vast majority of people are not growing. Now, you may ask them, do you grow? People go, sure, I listen to Joe Rogan. That's not growing. That's entertainment. You know, you got to be growing in an area that is strategic relative to what you want to accomplish.
True.
And I teach people using podcasts how to do that.
Well, I tell you what, Rogan does have some people that are worth listening to in particular areas that are absolutely not entertainment, and you can learn a lot from not just Rogan, but other podcasts. I like to read. I read 100 books a year minimum, and half of them are fiction, but still.
Right.
And I also like to hire coaches and experts. Like I hired this guy to help me with my health and fitness. I've had a coach help me with sales and enrollment. Those things are important. Just recently, I was working with a guy to help me inside my relationship. Problem that a lot of men have once they've been married for a while is they get complacent, and that complacency takes the intimacy out of the relationship. There's a lot of men who find that after 5-10 years, their sex life's dead. This coach that I learned from calls it the dead bedroom, and he's got a whole strategy for how to turn that bedroom alive like you did when you were first dating. So that was worth learning. I'll tell you that right now. That was worth its weight in gold right there.
I bet.
So I believe in all these things you're saying, but give me more. You said there's 5. That's 3 so far.
So then you've got to figure out what moves the needle. I mean, really think about what moves the needle. You know, and I find in working with people oftentimes what they think moves the needle is not what moves the needle. And I'll give you an example of this. I have a client up in Portland that's in the mini warehouse business, and he was making a couple of $1 million a year, and he came to me and he says, you know, I want to take you up on double my income or money back. And so I take him as a client, and we do one of these thinking sessions I was telling you about, and we do it together. And I go, well, Wade, what do you think moves the needle in your business? He goes, well, you know, I think that getting properties that I've recently acquired, getting them producing income is what moves the needle. And I'm like, you know, I don't think so. I think there's something else. And so I asked him, I said, so what's your special talent? And he says, you know, I can see storage opportunities that other people can't. And so I said, well, let's just think about that for a second. And so after a minute, I'm like, Wade, you know, I think what moves the needle is getting more purchase opportunities in your pipeline and doing your analysis and playing into your special talent of seeing opportunities that others don't see. Well, he took that one idea, and because now his understanding what moved the needle was much deeper, and that more than anything probably moved him from netting $2 million a year to $5 million a year. But that's the point I'm making, is that most people don't really see what moves the needle. Yeah. And, you know, I think you are very smart to get coaches. I mean, most people don't have the wisdom that you do to do that. But, you know, oftentimes they can see things that you can't see. But let me tell you the essence of my methodology that I'm not sure you fully see yet. So the most significant thing I ever learned in my life is that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious. Now, do you believe that?
100%. I know that to be true.
So what do you do today to play into that?
You know, that's a really good question. I spend more time than I should on social media. scrolling through YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and watching shit. Some of the things I watch are useful. Most of them are not.
Right, right. Well, let me say that, because I think you're like most people. Most people that I talk to, they go, "Yeah, I believe that 95% of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious." And because this is so foundational, I make them Google it. Literally, if you Google what percentage of my daily thoughts and actions are unconscious, in big dark letters, Google will show 95%.
Yeah.
But just like you, the critical question, well, if you believe that, what are you doing about it? And that's what that night, as it was snowing, that's the epiphany I got. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If 95% of my actions are unconscious, and those actions are what determine my success, then my subconscious mind controls my life. And I think this would be a good time to explain simply how the human mind works, and you'll understand this a little better. The conscious mind sets your intention and is influenced by logic. The subconscious mind controls your daily actions and is only influenced by repetition. And the example is, let's say you want to lose weight. Conscious mind sets the intention to lose weight based on the logic of the health benefits. Well, the reason people aren't losing weight is not from lack of intention. It's from lack of influencing their actions, their eating, their exercising. And if 95% of them are unconscious, that's why they're not having success. All they're doing is trying to affect their intentions. And so the lesson, in terms of how the human mind works, is you have to feed the succinct articulation of your life to yourself and the desired action to yourself every day. Because when you do that, then those right actions, whether we're talking about your health or your business, happen automatically without thinking.
No, listen, this makes sense. And I look back at what I did when I started working with my coach, Amber. I weighed 227 pounds, right?
Right.
5'11" and a half. My gut was sticking over my jeans. And what I did on a daily basis for 6 months is I checked in with him with what I ate. I ate according to a plan. And if he
Right.
had me change the plan, I change it. Now I check in with him once a week right now, because I'm still working with him, but not as intensely. I'm going to be doing a competition in the summer, bodybuilding
Right.
competition. But I got into the habit of checking in, and I got into the habit of eating according to a plan. So I don't just eat. I don't go down to the fridge and go, what am I going to eat today? That's not how I think about food. I go to the fridge at a certain time, and I know what I'm going to eat. I weigh it out, I measure it, and I eat it. That's what I do every meal, every day. So that's the unconscious mind right now. That's on autopilot because I've done it so often, I don't have to do it. In October, I brought another man on my podcast. His name is Andrew Kapp. He wrote a book called The Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. He sold 150,000 copies of that book. And Andrew is not a famous person. Well, he discovered how to create a daily series of law of attraction exercises. And I've been doing these. I think I've missed 4 days since the middle of October, 10 minutes a day. Since that's happened, I've increased my income. Things have gotten better in relationships I have with people, a whole bunch of stuff. But I know there's more that I can and should do. That's one of the reasons why I came here to have this interview with you, because I'm keen on learning from people. This is what people don't understand. When I bring someone on my show, it's good for my audience because they get to learn from them. It's good for you as the guest because you get to get your message to people who otherwise wouldn't get to hear from you. But it's also good for me because I get an hour of free coaching.
Right. Yeah. Well, Nikki, you'd find this interesting. So I showed this to Darren Hardy. You know who Darren Hardy is?
Yeah, I do.
So arguably the top expert in the world on success. And this was maybe 5 years ago. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to dedicate my life to this, I want to find the top expert in the world on success and show them what I created, see if there's anything similar to it, see if there's any flaws in it. So I write a big check and I spend 3 days with Darren and I show it to him. And he looks at it and he holds the template in his hand. He says, John, this is really good. But he says, people aren't going to spend 12 minutes a day on this. And I'm like, Darren, how the heck can that be? It 25x my income. Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind it. And we're applying the central concept of the top book in the world on success to people's lives. I'm like, what do you mean they're not going to spend 12 minutes a day on it? He goes, well, John, the dirty little secret in the success and human achievement field is that for most people, more success is merely a preference. And he says that's 98% of people. He says what you got is only for the driven 2%. And, at the time, I'm like, well, everybody in this world wants to be more successful, but he was dead on.
He is dead
for the last 5 years. And that's why what I've got is only for the 2%. If you're in the 98%, this is not for you.
100%. I agree. But, I think Darren's being a little harsh. I think the numbers are more like 95.5, but.
Right. Well, I guess we could debate that one, right?
Right. My own take on this is, look, I'm one of the 5% myself. I'm always looking to grow. I'm going to continue to grow. It's one of my key values in life. And this show is for people who are interested in growing, interested in getting to the next level. I have a coaching business of my own, and I bring people on who are ready to act. If you're not ready to act, I'm not for you. You're not for the people who are not ready to act. But what you're saying here makes a ton of sense. So how do we turn what I want to do into 12 minutes? Can that be done?
Nikki, of course. All you got to do is buy the book, learn the science, and then in the book, I give you access to the algorithm. And the challenge for me, in all candidness, so I've been doing this for 10 years, but only I just published my book for the first time a week ago. Right. So I never had an easy way to give this to people until now. Previously they had to come find me. I'd charge them $20,000 typically with that money back guarantee. But it was a high barrier of entry. And now the book makes it super simple for anybody to do it. And really, when I say it's for the 2%, I don't define the 2% by their income, but rather by their desire to play the game of life at their full potential. And so
I'm trying to buy your book on Amazon, and it says it's out of stock.
It's be sure you got the right one. The Missing Secret of the legendary book, Think and Grow Rich.
That's right.
I hope it's out of stock because that means a lot of people are buying it. But it's last time I checked it worked.
Huh.
Again, I've actually got a special gift for your audience. I did a 9-minute video that explains the full secret of Think and Grow Rich and the science behind it. And so, if your audience will go to themissingsecret.org, let me see that again, themissingsecret.org, they can get that video and they also see the link to buy the book.
Right on. Well, I'm in Canada, and your paperback copy is out of stock.
Well, that's interesting. Well, spend $25 and buy the hard copy.
Won't be here for a month, it says. Why is that?
Really? This is in Canada, huh?
February 18th is the earliest delivery.
Wow. Well, in the United States, it's fully stocked. But I appreciate you pointing that out to me. I'll look into that.
Yeah. All right. Super cool.
And can I mention a couple of quick other things? I see that in life, you got to have something that gives you an edge, an advantage. Because if you don't, you're going to have the average life. And I see with people that come to me, they go, well, this won't work on me. I'm like, hey, if you're human, it works. It can't not work. This is leveraging people through science. So that objection that it won't work on me just doesn't fly. Again, it's pure science. And I think one thing that if I were listening to this, I feel very honored and blessed that the University of Texas's business school allows me to teach it there. And the school is ranked in the top 5 in the country. And so, it's the methodology has been well vetted. So this is not another internet scheme. There's a lot of credibility to it besides the 150 million people that have read Think and Grow Rich. So I think that it's just a powerful way to make your subconscious mind your greatest asset instead of your greatest nemesis.
Amen.
Does that make sense?
Amen. Amen. Well, look, I hope you can get this figured out in terms of why it's not available in Canada. But 100%, let's get her done.
Right.
John Mitchell. So if people are looking to watch your video, where do you want to send them to?
TheMissingSecret.org.
TheMissingSecret.org. Okay. I will watch that myself. I will send people to it. I think that's great. So, John, we like to end every episode by asking you, our guest expert, to share with us your top 3, what I call expert action steps. These are your 3 best pieces of advice in bullet point form that you want my listener to take into their life. What say you?
The first one is understand how the human mind works, because that's the difference between working hard and working smart. And I worked for 50 years harder than all my friends. And then from understanding how the human mind works, I started working smart. And what a difference that made. So that'd be the first one. The second one would be to go to a higher level of success. The solution is not in your head today, because if it was already in your head, you'd already be there. And so, and you're an inspiration in terms of growing, and you're into coaches. But the point I want to make to your audience is that the solution to your life is not in your head. You got to go find somebody that you relate to, that's been where you want to go, and do what they're doing. And, I see that I continue to get more enlightened as I get older. And I appreciate that process and going and finding people that are smarter than me. And then maybe the third one would be really understand what moves the needle in each area of your life, from your marriage to your health to your career, and get a little outside input from somebody, because in the methodology I teach, you're going to have a deeper and deeper understanding of every aspect of your life. But to really impact the income, you gotta start with focusing your time on what moves the needle, and understand that what moves the needle at a deeper and deeper level.
Yeah, it makes sense. These are good expert action steps. God bless you, brother. Thanks for coming on the show. What you have to say is really, really great. Listener, make sure that you go to John's website, themissingsecret.org, and make sure you go and pick up a copy of his book. If you're in the U.S., which most of my listeners are, The Missing Secret of the legendary book, Think and Grow Rich by John Mitchell. And if if you're in Canada, maybe you pick up the hardcover or the Kindle, but make sure you pick it up and you do the exercises in the book. I think it's well worth it. I'm going to do it myself, 12 minutes a day, for crying out loud. That's really, really doable. So, John, I want to say thanks for coming on the show, man. God bless you.
Hey, thank you for having me, Nikki. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out more about today's amazing guest, the one and only John Mitchell, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, Rumble, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.